Howdy, Immortalium here. Today I'm reviewing Slayers Next. Now, for those of you that are unaware about this franchise, I'll just give you a quick kind of rundown. Basically, the Slayers franchise is set in a fantasy world filled with, humans and monsters. It's kind of like, many people compare it to D&D, for any of you that are kind of aware of that setting, which is quite a good way of kind of comparing it. We are introduced to Lena Inverse, our lead character, a redhead who is hyper, very manly in that she's always eating food and punching things, and blowing stuff up, of course. And, Gowry, which is a, handsome kind of swordsman, very skilled, very talented, who has the Sword of Light, and becomes her guardian. And that's kind of where the series progresses. Now, before I review Season 2, I better give you my opinions on Season 1. Season 1 of Slayers is quite problematic. It was, first of all, to explain a bit of history of the Slayers, in that Slayers was one of the more important franchises in bringing anime over to America. For one, it was probably one of the few uncensored anime TV series released in the late 90s in America. It was released by a company, what was it called? I can't even remember the name of the company, but it helped popularize anime, as well as the fact that it gave Crispin Freeman, who has his debut in Slayers, kind of his push start kind of to his career. So, very important in that regard. But the first season of Slayer, as viewed today, is kind of problematic. In that, first of all, it has a great sense of slapstick, I'll say, and the characters are great, and it's all fun and enjoyable. But there are three essential issues with Season 1 of the Slayers. One is that the pacing is completely off, in that basically they defeat the biggest evil, the big bad, within 10 episodes. And from there on, they're kind of just wandering about the place. There's some villains that they have to face, but none of them kind of compare to what they had fought before. And not only that, but they kind of don't really seem to settle down on like a major kind of plot point to focus on after the very first one. So that is very problematic. Number two is the animation. Now, even by the standards of 90s anime, Season 1 of the Slayers is problematic in its animation. It's kind of choppy, it's not the best put together, it reuses too much animation. It's kind of ugly looking. Even though it has a nice sense of art, it's still ugly looking. And the third issue, this will only apply to people who actually watch the English dub. First of all, the English dub was done in the late 90s, so if you have an issue with 90s dubs, that will be a problem. Overall, the English dub is far superior to most other series in the 90s, but there is one issue for people who will watch the English dub in Season 1, and that is two major characters get replaced in the series, voice actors wise. That's Zelgadis, the guy who, what was his name? Dan Cronin, I think his name was, who voiced him first. They couldn't get him back, so they replaced him with Crispin Freeman, and that gave, Crispin Freeman the push to become the awesome titan of anime voice acting he is today. The other one was Amelia. I can't even remember who voiced her first, but then she was replaced with Veronica Taylor, who you'd know as Ash Ketchum in Pokemon. So that's the other thing as well, that, like, for example, Gowry, or Knight in Shining Armor, he's voiced by Eric Stewart, who voiced Brock in Pokemon. So yeah, they have some interesting casting, but overall the dub itself is far superior to most other dubs at the time. It's not as good maybe as the dubs as of today, but it serves its purpose very well. It's over the top, it's quirky, it's funny, etc, etc. But so those are the main three issues, and the question I had when coming into the second season of Slayers is, have they corrected them? And the answer is mostly yes. First of all, the dub is back with the cast, and the cast is, all like stationary. You have Veronica Taylor, you have Crispin Freeman, you have Lisa Ortiz and Eric Stewart, and no one changes, thank God. So, nice and stable. The animation has seen a considerable improvement. Maybe, you know, it's not quite up to today's standards, of course, like, but it's very nice. And particularly, actually, there's several scenes in the last few episodes of this season that are actually quite beautiful to look at. And the pacing, importantly. With the first season, I watched the first season for the comedy. For this season, I actually got drawn into the story. Now, it's not an original story, you know, the characters going off, having to fight demons and, you know, face off, you know, against, you know, plotters and all that. But, you know, the story itself was very well executed and has actually a good few twists and turns. So, it has seen considerable improvement over season 1. And actually, another thing that contributed to it, which I did not expect, is the introduction of 2 other characters to our party, per se. That would be, first of all, I'll deal with Martina, first of all, because she's the more kind of easier one to deal with. She, by herself, isn't that particularly great. She's a kind of blue-haired, bosomy, kind of sorceress woman who, you know, is kind of, you know, who has a vengeance streak against our lead character, Lena. And she worships this false god, a god that she kind of made up, what was it, Zomulgustar. But her interaction with Lena is hilarious, because for the first season, with the exception possibly of Zelgadis, there was no one really to kind of stand up to Lena and kind of give her a run for her money. But Martina does do that, and that's a great pleasure to watch. So Martina by herself, not that great, but in, you know, working with Lena, perfect. It's a great, you know, complement to each other. And but the next character that was introduced is actually particularly important, and he's called Zelos. Zelos is this very mysterious priest character who kind of shows up out of nowhere. And it's pretty easy to see why he's one of the most popular characters in Slayers. He has that kind of anime-esque feel where he can go from being completely awesome one moment and to going to completely goofy the next moment. And they work so well off each other. You can believe perfectly that this guy's going from goofy to, you know, awesome and back again. So he's a great character, and it was a pleasure watching him on screen every single time. The main thing to take away from this is, if you have seen season 1, you know, season 2 is an improvement. If you're going to see season 1 and you're not too keen on it once you've finished, you can still move on to season 2 and enjoy it. Season 2 is a great improvement over season 1. Unfortunately, season 1 and season 2 are the only seasons to have actually adapted, you know, books from the light novel series that this series is based on. Season 3, I think, is basically, it's an original story, and then seasons 4 and 5, which basically together make up one giant kind of arc, they take subplots from the books, but they don't actually take the main story from the book, so that kind of works into it. So basically, if you get season 1 and season 2, that's everything, like, truly canon, you can say. But of course, you know, if you're just going by anime standards, which you would probably today, considering the book's out of print, then yes, you'll need season 3, season 4, season 5, which I will definitely be getting after seeing season 2. Yeah. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.